Hello and welcome to a new episode of That Fertile Feeling, the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something that you may not have thought about much when it comes to your fertility journey. We're going to be talking about gut health. And I can imagine you wondering, what does my gut have to do with getting pregnant? Actually, a lot. Your gut health actually plays a critical role in many of the body systems that influence your ability to conceive. So it has an effect on your immune system, on your hormones, on your nervous system, on your metabolism. So in this episode, we're going to break down all of these different links that exist between your gut microbiome, so the bacteria that live in your gut, and your fertility, and what you can do to improve it. And just to reassure you, I'm going to talk a lot about what's going on in your body, explaining to you about all of these different links between your gut health and your fertility. But I'll bring it back to a couple of very tangible things that you can do to improve your gut health and fertility at the end of the episode. So it will not just be a very technical story, it will also be something that you can really use and work with to hopefully optimize your fertility. So, first things first, what exactly is gut health? Now, when we talk about gut health, we mostly talk about the health of your gut microbiome. And this microbiome, it's like an entire city made up of trillions of bacteria and other microorganisms that live in your intestines. And I was just looking this up. There are more bacteria in your gut than there are stars in the galaxy. That's how many of those bacteria there are. Now, some of them are good. So they help your body digest food, they produce important compounds, they keep your immune system in check. And others can be really bad, contributing to inflammation and other problems if they get out of balance. It's even said that your gut microbiome, so all of those bacteria in your gut, are actually the largest endocrine organ in the body because they play such a crucial role in the production and regulation of hormones that they in itself are almost like an organ. And that's why they have this, really important role in fertility. What you want to get at is a state where your gut microbiome is in balance. So that means that the good bacteria are doing their job, and that also means that your body then runs smoothly. But when there's no balance, it's also called dysbiosis. This can really affect many of your body systems, including your fertility. So you might think that all these bacteria do is process your food, but that's not the case. They are involved in your immune system, in your hormone production. They even keep you happy. I'll touch upon that in this episode, but happy gut means happy you, basically. Um, I went over 100 academic articles these last few weeks, trying to really put together all of the information that's out there. And right now, like a lot of research is being done on gut health. And I've sought to really bring it back to 4 specific themes that I'll discuss in this episode. So, the link between your gut and your hormones, the link between your gut and your immune function, the link between your gut and your metabolism. So, basically your digestion. And then finally, also, I'll briefly touch on the link between your gut and your vaginal tract. So, let's start with that link between your gut and the endocrine system, your hormones. I mentioned that your gut microbiome consists of all of these tiny bacteria. And when these bacteria are healthy and they're fed the appropriate foods, they start to produce something called short chain fatty acids. And this is a term that will come back a lot during this episode, short chain fatty acids. So just think about those little bacteria. They eat your food and they produce these acids. They do many beneficial things, these short chain fatty acids. So you want to have lots of them. And one thing that's particularly relevant for fertility is that they send signals to your ovaries to produce more progesterone and estradiol. Now, you're probably familiar with these hormones if you're trying to get pregnant. If not, I'll just remind you that estradiol is a type of estrogen. So basically, what estrogen does is it prepares your body for a pregnancy. It makes sure that your womb is nice and plump, that there's a good environment there for that fertilized egg. And then progesterone is the dominant hormone in the second part of your cycle. So that's basically the hormone that tries to keep you pregnant. If there's a fertilized egg there, it will make sure that that egg stays on board. So the short chain fatty acids that are produced in your gut contribute to the production of these really important hormones. And then if your gut is out of balance, if you don't have enough of the good bacteria, that messes with the production of these hormones. There's also a second way in which your gut influences your hormonal balance. One thing, when it comes to hormonal balance is that there's something like an optimal hormonal balance. So you don't want too much of like things like estrogen, and also not too little. These are some of the things that we see in PCOS or endometriosis, for example, that these hormones are out of balance. And your gut plays a crucial role in regulating this hormonal balance because it can do two things. The blood that passes through the liver contains hormones, and the liver filters out excess hormones, passes them onto your gut, so with your poop they can be excreted from your body. So that is one function of the gut, is to make sure that all of those excess hormones are eliminated from your system. But if there's not enough, then the bacteria in your gut can also get the hormones out of your stool again and back into your bloodstream. So if your hormones are if your bacteria are balanced, they can do this job really well. If they are out of balance themselves, you might see either too much or too little estrogen going back into your bloodstream. So this can really lead to hormonal imbalances that play a role, in fertility, and especially in conditions like PCOS or endometriosis. So just because of that crucial role that your gut plays in regulating your hormonal balance, you want to have optimal gut health as well. But it's not just that. The gut also plays or is really tightly linked to your immune function. And we all know that the immune system also plays a big role in fertility, because the risk of infertility or not conceiving is higher in conditions marked by inflammation. So there can be infections, but again, also with endometriosis and PCOS, we see these systemic inflammations going on. Now, we just talked about the short chain fatty acids that are produced by a healthy gut microbiome. They not only regulate your hormonal production, but they also have anti-inflammatory properties. So this is a bit technical again, but basically what they do is they help your body lower levels of certain molecules. They're called cytokines. And these cytokines, what they do is they signal to your body that it has an infection going on and that it needs to start fighting that infection. So that is how inflammation starts. And that's okay if there's really something going on. But if there's just too many cytokines in your system because you don't have enough of those short chain fatty acids to lower their presence, your body starts to think that there's like a chronic infection going on. So it keeps creating inflammation responses. So short chain fatty acids, they lower this response. They lower the level of those molecules of the cytokines. Your body won't feel like it's under threat, like it doesn't need to start fighting an infection. And the other way around, when your gut is out of balance, when you have that dysbiosis, you have fewer beneficial bacteria and more harmful ones. So you will see an increase in those pro-inflammatory cytokines. So this increase in inflammation is something you really want to prevent, because it can make your immune system overactive or misregulated, can contribute to miscarriages. It's just not a good thing for fertility. And with all of these links between the gut and these other systems, what's problematic is that it's also a bidirectional link. So when your immune system is compromised, when it's constantly battling inflammation, this can then in turn worsen that dysbiosis. So it can worsen the conditions in your gut, creating a really like downward spiral where your immune system keeps working harder and harder to fight that inflammation. The balance of those good bacteria in your gut worsens, creating more inflammation. And this is something that you actually see then in conditions like PCOS or endometriosis. It's like your body has forgotten how to find its way back to balance because this cascade of events has been set off. So we discussed the immune system, we discussed hormonal balance, and then there's your metabolism. So how well you digest your food, basically. Your gut microbiome also really plays a big role, obviously, in how you convert your food into energy. That's the whole process that's going on in your gut, right? And your gut bacteria, they, in an ideal situation, they help regulate something that's called metabolic homeostasis. So that means that your metabolism is in balance. Everything is working as it should. Um, and again, here's where those short chain fatty acids come into play. Next to helping, regulate your hormonal balance, your immune system, they also influence how your body processes energy and glucose, and they help you regulate your metabolism. So when your gut microbiome is out of balance, when you don't produce, or when those bacteria don't produce a lot of these short chain fatty acids, you can lose balance in your digestion as well. And one thing that can happen is that you get increased insulin resistance. So that means your body is not good at handling sugar. Your glucose levels in your blood, they stay so high that this actually messes with your hormone production again, especially with the production of LH and FSH, which are two hormones that are really essential for growing egg cells and for triggering ovulation, right? So again, this is something that you see a lot in PCOS. That's why women have such a hard time ovulating, is because they have these glucose levels that are, consistently too high, and that just messes up that crucial hormonal production. And as with all of these links, again, there's a feedback link. So when you have too much insulin in your system, when you don't have enough short chain fatty acids, your glucose levels are just structurally too high. This can also increase the production of like what we call the male hormones, like testosterone in your ovaries. And then these male hormones, testosterone, or we call them androgens, they can disrupt your metabolism even more. So they really impair your body's ability to process insulin even further. So again, you have a downward spiral. So I guess I've convinced you that gut health is important. Like one final thing I wanted to touch on is the link between gut health and your vagina, because your gut microbiome can also influence the microbial composition of your reproductive tract. When your gut is healthy, it also helps maintain a balance of beneficial bacteria in your vagina. So that's really important, because those bacteria, they help prevent infections, and they create an environment where conception is just more likely to happen. And now when your gut is out of balance, the harmful bacteria in your gut can overgrow into the reproductive tract, making it harder for sperm to survive, for an embryo to implant. So this is, yet another reason why you want to keep your gut microbiome really healthy when you're trying to conceive. So it's important. Gut health is important. What can you do to improve your gut microbiome? And if you know me, you know that like, I try to strike a good balance between giving you advice on things you can do, but I also, in everything I do, I stress that the fertility journey shouldn't become like this enormous checklist where you're just working all the time. It should feel joyful. It should feel nourished. Yeah, you should be flourishing, not just, working so hard that life loses all meaning, basically. So I would suggest that if you, want to start working with your gut microbiome, the first step is really to connect to your body first and feel whether all of this, all the things that I've been telling you about, whether they apply to you. Because it's so easy to get carried away by external advice, like feeling, oh, like maybe this is the solution for my fertility challenges. But your body knows whether this is what you need to do or not. This is actually something you can do quite easily. I would suggest that you start by just paying close attention to your stools for maybe the next week. It's just like with your period and your cycle, your body, all of these cycles, there's all of these things that we can witness, that give us information about the state of our health. So questions you can ask yourself this next week are, do I have regular bowel movements? And that means, do I have to poop once up to 3 times a day or not? You want to be pooping every day, otherwise you're not getting enough fiber. And you don't want to be pooping 8 times a day, because then you're just losing nutrients. Obviously, something's wrong with your bowels then as well. You want to look at your stools. So are they well formed? Are they soft? Are they not, isn't there too much liquid in them? Or is it really, if it's really difficult for you to pass your stools, then something's going on as well. So this gives you information, just the look of your stools. Do they have a healthy brown color? And do they smell like poop? Or do they smell really, really foul? Again, obviously there's an odor, but it shouldn't be really, really foul. That's also an indication that something's going on. Maybe you feel like, okay, now that I've been noticing or witnessing my stools, I see that something's off. So let's then try and see what you can do. And again, I want you to go easy on yourself, because it can be so easy to say, well, I'll just adopt like a keto diet where I only eat protein. I cut out all carbs. And for someone who has like severe PCOS, I mean, there's studies out there that show that this is a good thing for you. But it's so hard to completely overhaul the way that you're eating, and it has such a big effect on your life. So what I've tried to do for this podcast is just find a couple of tweaks that you can easily integrate in your daily routine that will make you feel nourished rather than overwhelmed. And it would be really good if you start doing that you also track your process. So keep paying attention to your stools and write down if you see any changes, because that is so motivating. Like if you see changes, that will keep you going. I will also record a podcast in the next couple of weeks on inflammation, more specifically. And one thing that I'm doing now is I've changed the order in which I eat my food. So I eat my vegetables first, then my proteins, and then my carbs. I will get to that in that episode. But what that does is I no longer have these afternoon crashes where all of my energy is just drained. I feel so drained. I no longer have any energy. So that's, now that I noticed that, it's such a great motivation to keep going, because I see now that changing the order of my food really makes me feel nourished. And it's the same with some of I call them the hacks that I'm giving you today. I've been working with these myself as well. And I just feel like if I feel into my gut right now, my gut is so happy. So that's a great motivation to keep going. It's not because I'm forcing myself, but I actually feel like this is something I want to do because it makes me feel so good. Okay, let's get to the hacks. First up, dietary interventions. I know I've been talking a lot about those short chain fatty acids that help reduce inflammation. They regulate your metabolism, your hormonal balance. Adding more fiber to your diet is the most effective way to feed these beneficial bacteria in your gut and to promote the production of short chain fatty acids. You probably know this, but fibers can be found in fruits, in vegetables, in whole grains, in legumes. And the easiest way to increase your fiber intake is to add a serving of fiber-rich vegetables to every meal. You're probably eating some vegetables at dinner already, maybe a salad at lunch, right? But adding vegetables to your breakfast can be more tricky. There's actually one podcast episode I did with Kohenet Nancy, I forgot her last name, Wolfson Mosh. I'll put the link in the show notes. She wrote a whole book about this, vegetables for breakfast. So you can look up that episode. There's a link to the book there and also a discount, a coupon code. That's one thing you can do to add vegetables to your breakfast. What I do is just I always make sure that I have some snackable vegetables at hand. So I don't throw away any leftovers at dinner, but I leave them in the fridge and I eat them first thing at breakfast. It's a really good way, as I just mentioned, to regulate your blood sugar as well. This is how I get my vegetables in the morning. And I am a big fan of carrots. So I also have a big bag of carrots in my fridge at all times that I just nibble on when I'm cooking or when I'm getting a snack. Just get a couple of carrots out first. And they're cleaned already. Like I don't need to do anything. I just need to grab them, eat them. I can eat them in the morning. I can eat them before I have a piece of chocolate. Just making sure that I get some carrots in with everything that I eat. Another thing you can do is start your meal with a vegetable soup or salad. So I now make sure that, especially when we're eating pizza or just when we're having sandwiches, I make sure to whip up a quick vegetable soup or salad. So that's the first thing I eat. Then I'll eat my pizza. Again, this is great for blood sugar, but this is also a really easy hack. That means that you don't have to change what you're eating. We're actually going on a trip this weekend. So I have my bag of carrots with me. I brought a couple of ready-made salads. So when I'm eating fries at the ferry tonight, I know that I can have my salad first to get that fiber in. And a final way of adding fiber is to count your plant points, because your gut microbiome really loves fiber diversity. Like the more different types of plants you eat, the more different types of bacteria you feed. Every bacteria has their own like food that they like. And plant points are just, you look at your food and everything that's made from a plant and that's not processed food is a plant point. So so my example with the carrot is maybe not the best one. Um, I could already improve my plant point score if I would buy those rainbow carrots that you see a lot now, because different colored carrots are again different plant points. Or I could make sure to also have maybe some cucumber or some tomatoes at hand, so I can, switch a little bit between these different types of snacks. But also a great way to add more plant points to your meals is just to make sure that you always have a couple of pots with fresh herbs in your kitchen, and add fresh herbs to your meal. Like every herb is another plant point. I also throw in nuts and seeds whenever I can. That's also every nut, like every type of nut, every type of seed is another plant point. And this is a nice experience. You can just see with your food now, with your meals today, just count your plant points, see how many different plants you are getting in. So cereals also counts. And then see, okay, and what would be a way for me to diversify this plant point score? And again, like I said, it's crucial that you set yourself up for success. So try and implement these small changes first. Don't go crazy. Don't add another fat diet. Just start implementing some small changes. Keep track of your bowel movements and just see if you notice any improvements, because that's really, the best motivation to keep going and to incorporate more of these changes. A second thing you can do, so we just discussed dietary interventions. A second thing you can do is manage your stress levels. I've been talking a lot about all of these different links between your gut and other systems in your body. And there's one crucial one that I left out. That's the link between your gut and your nervous system. And again, this is a two-way communication system. There's just constant communication going on between your gut and your brain. It's really fascinating. When you have a healthy gut, so I've been talking about these short chain fatty acids, bacteria in your gut produce the good stuff. They also produce other good stuff. And one of those things is serotonin. It's the feel-good hormone. So a happy gut literally makes you feel good. Now, serotonin, we know it because of its effect, on our mental state, but it also does many other things as well. It helps you bring down inflammation. It helps you bring down stress levels. So a happy gut will also make you feel less stressed. Conversely, your gut can throw your entire nervous system off balance, because it will trigger your body to start producing cortisol, the stress hormone. And there's a feedback loop here again, with more and more cortisol in your blood, your gut health worsens again, inflammation increases, you produce less serotonin, more cortisol. So there's this whole cascade of events again that lead you to feel worse, and it also affects your fertility. So managing your stress levels is really crucial for your gut health. And I've talked a lot about managing stress here on this podcast, so I don't want to go into too much detail here. If you've been listening to the last couple of episodes, I just put out a meditation bundle called Nourished, which you can find at thatfertilefeeling.com/nourished. There's 10 guided practices there that focus on your body, on your heart, on your soul, and help you find back your way to the most nourished version of yourself. Alternatively, like one little hack is that you can sit down and create a list of the 10 things that brought you most joy this month. So maybe, look at your diary, look at your calendar and see like what are the things that I really enjoyed a lot. Take out your calendar and block some time every day to do at least one thing that brings you joy. And if that's too much, at least once a week. But start really investing in things that make you feel good. That's the best way to lower your stress levels. There's all of these other things you can do, right? Breathing exercises, meditation. I love meditation. I'm a meditation teacher. But in the end, again, I don't want to add more things to your to-do list. I want you to make you feel alive and vibrant and just really, yeah, like you're in a good place, even though your fertility journey might be challenging. One final thing. We discussed dietary interventions, lowering your stress levels. Now, it's also really crucial that you lower your exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals. A while back, I recorded an entire episode about what these chemicals are, why they are so bad for your hormones. One thing I wanted to add here is that they can also really influence the gut microbiome. So they promote those imbalances that you don't want. I try to never get really dogmatic here on the show, except that I want you to feel good and I want you to get rid of those chemicals in your home. If you haven't done so already, like make sure that you limit your exposure to them, not only for your own health, but also for your future baby's health, because these chemicals, they really alter your hormonal balance. And then once you get pregnant, they have like systemic influences on your baby's hormonal balance as well. It's really, really awful. It's incredible that all of these substances are still in our food, in our cosmetic products. I mean, we'll look back at this 30 years from now thinking, what were we thinking? If you want some practical advice on how to get rid of the EDCs, the endocrine disrupting chemicals, you can go back to episode 93. The most important things are that you make sure that you have clean air in your home. So, really optimize your ventilation, vacuum every day, that you eat mostly unprocessed foods, and that you avoid anything non-stick or plastic in your kitchen. And take a really good look at your skincare and cleaning supplies. You want to use like natural products as much as possible because all of these products, they contain really bad chemicals. I've created a free PDF that you can download at thatfertilefeeling.com/chemicals. You'll find some more information there. You can listen to the podcast episode. I'll put all of it in the show notes. So, to summarize, a healthy gut is good for your hormones, it's good for your immune function, it's good for your digestion, it's good for your nervous system. It's just really, really important for your fertility. And and they're really easy things that you can start doing today by changing your diet, you know, managing your stress levels and getting rid of your endocrine disrupting chemicals in your home to make sure that you, yeah, really invest in your fertility. If you have any questions for me, you can always find me on Instagram at thatfertilefeeling or email me at francoise@thatfertilefeeling.com. I always love to hear from you and I always get back to you and hope to see you back in 2 weeks. Bye bye.